What's up, everybody? Welcome back once again to another episode of Axel's Analysis. As always, I'm your NXT nerd and your Indian informer, Axel Mulligan. Not actually reviewing NXT this week. Don't get me wrong, it was a very, very good show. But there was a much better show on this past weekend, House of Hardcore VII. Fucking brilliant. I said all along I was going to cover it. I was hoping to do both NXT and House of Hardcore. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible given time constraints and such. But I decided to do House of Hardcore. I put it out on Twitter that I was going to do House of Hardcore, and I got the Grappling Greats this week. I don't normally do the Grappling Greats section when I cover an indie show, but I'm covering Eddie Guerrero this week simply for the fact that it was the 9th anniversary of his passing. So I felt it necessary to put out a section on Eddie Guerrero, one of my all-time favourite wrestlers. I put him in my top 5, some of the greatest matches I've ever seen. Just a phenomenal talent. Anyway, that's later on in the show. House of Hardcore 7, as I say, what a fantastic event. We had the final time for Beulah McGillicuddy to escort Tommy Dreamer to the ring. So obviously that was quite emotional for obvious reasons. You know, brilliant main event, the Hardy Boys versus the Young Bucks. It's like the original Hardy Boys versus the new Hardy Boys. Brilliant match. We had Austin Aries versus Drew Galloway. We had Danny Doran and Stevie Richards. That match kicked off the show. I'm just going to get straight into the show from here. Really good way to start House of Hardcore 7. 2 ECW originals back in the arena. Stevie looks the same as he did in 97, let's be fair. So obviously DDP Yoga, I think he works along with Dallas, so he's looking good. To be fair, Stevie, you tend to find it Danny Doran, and I mean this with all due respect. Guys as they get older tend to put on a bit of weight. Danny Doran's one of them. Stevie Richards isn't. But it's, DDP Yoga, obviously what he's doing is clearly paying off for him, so fair play to him. I'm doing DDP Yoga myself. Restarted about a week or so ago, so hopefully I will have a body like Stevie Richards at some stage in the very near future. Good way to kick off the show, this match. It wasn't a great marquee standout 5-star match, but it wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. I really enjoyed it. Stevie's not a big talking point for the match, but Stevie, he picked up the win with the Stevie kick. And there was a good show of respect as well post-match. These two, it's no secret that these two are very good friends. Away from the ring, Stevie and Danny Doran, they hugged after the match, and they showed, just a good show of respect, really. They both walked down the aisle together after the match. Fans loved it. Danny Doran, I always loved him as a heel, Before I watched this, I watched Hardcore Heaven 97. I know obviously Danny Doran wasn't on that show, but I've seen a lot of shows where Danny Doran was on, and he was a very good heel. He really knew how to antagonise the crowd. But it's good to see these guys that are showing the respect that each other deserve, because there's so many guys who did deserve so much respect back in ECW, and still now. Stevie Richards, always thought he was very underrated and undervalued by the WWE. He worked his ass off in ECW. He actually main evented the first ever ECW pay-per-view, Barely Legal 97. So, it's nice to see these older guys as well. As I say, there were more names further down the card, but it's nice to see these older guys, Danny Doran, Stevie Richards. Great way to kick off the show. A nice little taster for what we had to come. Second match, Christian York versus Brian Myers, the former Kurt Hawkins. There was one thing that pissed me off about this match. There was some prick in the crowd started off CM Punk chants. He got booed. You got to shut the fuck up. But if you want to watch, or if you want CM Punk, go and watch fucking The Talking Dead. Go and dig out a CM Punk DVD. CM Punk walked out on wrestling fans. Fuck CM Punk as far as I'm concerned. Don't get me wrong, great wrestler. I've recently watched the Second City Saint DVD that he did, or that Ring of Honor did for him. Don't get me wrong, as I say, brilliant wrestler. As a human being, he's an asshole. Fuck him. He walked out on new fans. Don't bother with it. Yeah, the in-ring side of things. The in-ring action was really good. Christian York, I've always been a fan of his. He's always been a great worker on the indies, and for the brief stint that he had in TNA a couple of years ago. And Brian Myers showed why he should have been more than what he was in the WWE. Now, as much as he was a tag team champion, he was an edgehead. I've always felt that he should have been a bit more. Maybe not necessarily a main event player, but he's a very good wrestler. In fact, a friend of mine, Tom Smith, Kurt Hawkins, Brian Myers is Tom's favourite wrestler. No idea why. Well, he's a good wrestler, as I say. So, if you haven't seen this match, Tom, get onto it, man, if you're listening, because it was a very good match. York did pick up the win, though, with the mood swing. I'm not really too surprised that York won. It was a snap swinging neck breaker. But the main talking point came after the match. York left the ring. Myers got on the microphone. He's saying about how he's, the neck breaker that York used was illegal. And, he didn't want to leave the ring until he faced somebody with a bit of credibility. So he sat in a corner of the ring, and out came Ricardo Rodriguez. And I fucking marked out for Ricardo. I've always been a fan of Ricardo's mic work. Always thought that he was a decent wrestler in WWE, El Local. But, Ricardo said he didn't come here alone, and he asked for a bit of help because he hadn't done it in a long time, and he proceeded to give an introduction to a wrestler that he used to announce for a while back. With that, out comes Alberto Del Rio, and the crowd went fucking nuts. The crowd loved it. I marked out, I'm not going to lie, because I'm a big Del Rio fan. I've always said all along I was a big Del Rio fan. He just got dealt a shit hand in the WWE with his gimmick. But Alberto, he basically comes to the ring, he says, I fucking missed you guys. Talking to the fans, talking about the fans. He talked about how he'd only recently been allowed to compete. He said up until a few days ago, he didn't know whether he'd be allowed to compete in the States for up to a year. But then he talks about his love for the business, and then a big fuck McMahon chant went out around the arena. And Alberto, he put the mic up to Ricardo's face, but Ricardo declined to comment on, to participate in the chant. And then Alberto basically told him to stop being a pussy, which I thought was quite funny. Alberto then started a C chant to stop the fuck McMahon chant. He's got this agreement with the WWE where he won't talk negatively about them as long as he can compete in the States. Fair enough. El Patron, as he's now known, Alberto, talked about his and Ricardo's love for wrestling, and that wrestling is, the best thing in their lives. And Alberto says they're not sports entertainers, they're fucking wrestlers. And Brian Myers, he was hanging around the ringside throughout the promo. He got back into the ring, he got in Del Rio's face. Instead of picking a fight with Del Rio or El Patron, he pushed Ricardo. And Alberto didn't like it too much, sticking up for his mate. He went for a clothesline. Myers ducked it, but as Myers sort of turned around, he got caught with a roundhouse kick to the gut by Ricardo, and Alberto was allowed to then lock in the cross arm breaker, just to end the segment. I'm personally hoping and expecting that we'll see a match between Myers and Alberto at the next House of Hardcore event, whenever that happens to be. Hopefully in the not too distant future, because this is something that was set up quite nicely for the next event. Personally, I'm a big fan of Alberto Del Rio, El Patron, whatever you want to call him. Nice to see Ricardo Rodriguez as well, because he gives the best introductions to Alberto. Lillian Garcia did it all in Spanish. Lillian Garcia, when she speaks in Spanish, I don't know why, it just makes me cringe. I don't know why. Justin Roberts, Justin Roberts did it in English, but there was nobody who had the passion and the voice for it quite like Ricardo. So we'll see. I'd like to see that at the next event. The next match was a 6-man tag team match. It was Anthony Green, Vic Delicious, and Ben Ortiz versus the Team Tremendous, which is Dan Barry and Bill Carr, and their partner was Little Guido. If anybody knows anything about Little Guido, Nunzio knows that he's a very good wrestler, and he's still doing it at the right age. Well, he's in his mid-40s, I think. I don't know exactly how old he is, but he's still looking good in the match. But this, entertainment-wise, this was the match of the night, I thought. Not necessarily a wrestling clinic, but there was a lot of comedy involved in the match. The two things that impressed me the most were the athleticism of Bill Carr. He's a big guy. He's probably about 300 pounds, and he took down Vic Delicious with a head scissors. You don't get better. You don't get more athletic than that for a big guy, really. And the second thing was the wrestling skills of the referee. I didn't catch the referee's name, whether it was announced or not, I'm not sure, but he basically sided with Guido at the beginning of the match because I think it was Anthony Green was not too keen on a few decisions that the referee was making early on, so the referee decides to side with Guido. Maybe he's Italian, I don't know. But my favourite part of the match was a double team move that Team Tremendous, Barry and Carr hit to Vic Delicious. Vic caught Carr in the face with a super kick, and he went up to the top rope. But as he climbed up the top rope, Dan Barry was running along the apron and he caught him with a kick to the head. And Bill Carr made it back to his feet, and he set Vic up on his shoulders, and Barry went to the top rope. And as Carr went down to land an electric chair move, Barry hit a sliced bread. It was just brilliant. I loved it. I thought it was fucking awesome. The end of the match came a few moments later. Carr, again, another great example of his athleticism, I suppose. He hit a somersault plancha to Vic and Ben Ortiz. Ben Ortiz, I must admit, he reminded me of Bam Bam Bigelow. He just had the look, even the ring gear was similar. He had a similar sort of look without all the tattoos. But he just reminded me of Bam Bam. And whenever somebody reminds you of a great wrestler like Bam Bam Bigelow, it's obviously never a bad thing. So yeah, Bill Carr hit this somersault plancha to Vic Delicious and Ben Ortiz, and a few seconds later, Dan Barry landed a shooting star press to all three of them. And then Guido was alone in the ring. Anthony Green was somewhere on the outside, like on another section of the outer part of the ring. So Guido was alone in the ring, and he was looking to hit a suicide dive, but he was stopped by the referee, and he basically sort of suggested that he was going to use the wrestling move, and he went to the top rope and hit a moonsault, landed on top of all four guys that were on the outside of the ring. I thought it was fucking brilliant. So Guido was once again alone in the ring, and again he looked to hit a suicide dive, but Vic Delicious had a couple of female managers. One of them got ejected early in the match, and the other one, well, obviously she didn't. So Guido tried turning on his Sicilian charm, but she wasn't having any of it, so Guido stole a kiss from her. And as he did it, he pulled her wig off, and it just revealed one of the most horrendous haircuts I've ever seen in my life. But Matt Striker made me laugh because he said, I'll still do it. Matt Striker was on commentary. He was brilliant all night, I thought. Spot on with absolutely everything. Guido turned around to find Anthony Green on the top rope. He pulled him down, and as he pulled him down, he hit his head on the top turnbuckle. He managed to get like a roll up for the win. The count was quite fast though, I must admit. But no, very entertaining match. The crowd loved it. It actually got a "that was awesome" chant afterwards. So when you get that kind of chant from a crowd in the arena, in the ECW arena, you've done well. So all 7 guys, referee included. In fact, no, fuck it, 8, including the managers, or 9, including the managers. Brilliant. I thought it was a fantastic match. As I say, entertainment-wise, Like if you look at comedy value, I thought it was brilliant. Best match of the night as far as that's concerned. The next match was one of the better wrestle matches of the night. I thought it was Eddie Kingston, and Kingston got the crowd straight away because he came out to an instrumental version of Pantera's Walk. Walk obviously being one of the ECW theme songs of Rob Van Dam. And his opponent was, it was supposed to be Jigsaw, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be Jigsaw, but for whatever reason, Jigsaw wasn't there. And Davey Richards didn't make the show either. So Eddie Edwards was put up against Eddie Kingston. They had a really good wrestling match, I thought. They both showed off, they got a lot of technical prowess, both of these two guys. Eddie Kingston, Matt Striker, I never thought of it until Matt Striker said it. Looks like he could be Matt Seidel's brother. I thought it was, a really good comparison. Not necessarily similar wrestlers, but they do look alike. And then he was also sort of taking the piss out of Eddie Edwards' mum, saying the day that Eddie Edwards was born, she wasn't feeling very creative, naming him Edward Edwards. Something else I'd never really thought of. It was a brilliant wrestling match, as I say. There was a series of suplexes, sort of near the start of the match, I suppose, between both guys. And Matt Striker said it's hard not to think of Chris Benoit when you see a series of suplexes in the ECW Arena. And I thought, is he actually allowed to say Chris Benoit? It's not WWE, so I suppose the shackles are off and everybody can let loose and say what the fuck they want. But no, I really enjoyed the match. Initially, Kingston was, as I say, he was due to face Jigsaw. Sorry, I'm just reading off my notes and going back on what I've already said. Blah, blah, blah. Eddie Edwards picked up the win using the single leg Boston Crab. And he sort of dug his other knee into the back of Eddie Kingston. What I liked about it, or what I thought was really cool, was the fact that he didn't tap out. He told the referee that he gave up. And I've not seen that in a long, long time. And I thought that was just something brilliant. Because you don't have to tap, do you? You can just say, I give up. As I say, I've not seen it in a long time. And, I was fairly happy with how that was done. What anybody else's opinion is, I don't know. But if you have got an opinion, as always, tweet it to me at Axel Mulligan. Loved it. Just something different. Because you think about this now, you think, well, no, it is a good change. It is a nice change, Instead of seeing guys tap out, just say to the referee, I'll give up. I thought it was good. Anyway, we were given a rundown of the ECW Arena Hall of Famers, or the Hardcore Hall of Famers. I forget what the name of that particular Hall of Fame was, and I forget half the names on the list. Names on there was Terry Funk was the initial inductee. You got Todd Gordon, Sandman, Tommy Dreamer, to name but a few. I think the Pitbulls were on there as well. But yeah, the next match of the night, which I thought this was another good match. It was yours truly, Alex Reynolds, with Mindy O'Neill and DJ Haven in his corner. Lance, I can never get this pronounced right. Anoa'i, from the family of Rikishi, The Rock, the Wild Samoans, I don't know how it's pronounced. Tony Nese. And my first, Tony Nese was the third guy. It was a triple threat elimination match. My first thought when Alex Reynolds came out was, holy shit, Mindy is hot and she is fucking hot. It's worth noting as well, while we're on the theme of hardcore ECW, so on and so forth, that both Tony Nese and Alex Reynolds were trained by ECW legend and former ECW World Champion Mikey Whipwreck. Also, Lance, as I mentioned, he's got an affiliation to I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. Anoa'i. Somebody, if anybody can pronounce it and spell out it's pronounced, because I know it's not pronounced how it's spelled. Again, tweet me at Axel Mulligan or leave a comment below. I can't pronounce it. I'm just going to refer to him as Lance. As I say, he's from the famous, that family, Rikishi, The Rock, Roman Reigns, Alpha, Sika, so on and so forth. But where he comes in the lineage of that family, I don't know. I think he's like 22, 23 years old. He did a lot of the Uso chants, which didn't really work for me, I suppose, but hey ho. As I say, it was an elimination triple threat match. Lance was eliminated first to get that one out of the way, so I don't have to mispronounce his last name. He missed with a top rope splash, which he was trying to hit Alex Reynolds. Reynolds rolled out of the way. Lance hit the canvas, and Reynolds managed to pin him for the first elimination. I thought that was something else that was really cool, because normally when a guy misses his opponent and hits the canvas, you see the guy who's rolled out of the way or been missed or whatever go for a move. Reynolds didn't. He went straight for the pin and got the 3 count. And then straight off the back of that, Nice hit Reynolds with a 450, and I expected it to be over there, but it wasn't. But I'm glad it wasn't, because these two had a really good one-on-one contest. So I thought two young, hungry guys who looking to make their way in the business, and they got given a nice sort of 6 or 7 minutes to shine. But the end came about. Excuse me. Reynolds was down in the centre of the ring. Nice went up to the top rope, but he was sort of stopped by DJ Haven, who pulled his leg. Sorry, DG Haven pulled his leg, and Reynolds he went up to the top rope with Nice. Caught him with a couple of big elbows, and Nice sort of slipped down to the apron. He caught Alex with a kick, like a Pele kick to the head. And Nice basically climbed back on top, and he levelled Reynolds with a reverse Rana, 1, 2, 3. Tony Nese picked up the win. Really good match. I mean, I've seen Tony Nese and Alex Reynolds both 3 times now. I've seen them both at the FWE shows, which I did the podcast for, the Refueled Nights 1 and Night 2. And I just get more and more impressed each time I see both guys. They both know how to work the ring. They've got a vast array of wrestling moves, wrestling holds. And Alex Reynolds, I think the sky's the limit for that guy. Tony Nese as well. I don't think he'd be a good fit in the WWE, more so maybe Ring of Honor. But I think Alex Reynolds would be a very good fit in the WWE. The way that they're sort of transitioning to that smaller kind of wrestler, making it to the big time. You've had guys in recent years such as like CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and then in NXT you've got Adrian Neville, Sami Zayn, so on and so forth. And I think Alex Reynolds would fit that mold very well. Tony Nese strikes me as more of a Ring of Honor kind of guy. Excuse me, sort of more of in the mold of like an AJ Styles or a Matt Sydal. But we'll see where these guys go in the future. As I say, the sky's the limit for both of them, really. The Killer Elite Squad, Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Lance Archer came out next, and I swear to fucking God, Davey Boy Smith Jr. looks more and more like his dad every time I fucking see it. If he had the dreadlocks, you could have said he was Bulldog back in '92. You really could. Davey got on the mic and he said about how David Richards not been there. He said he had a tummy ache. What the reasons were for David Richards not being there, I'm not sure. Smith said that the Killer Elite Squad is the baddest tag team in the world. Archer gets on the mic and he pisses off the Philly faithful by giving a Go Cowboys remark. He is from Dallas after all, and I am a Dallas Cowboys fan, so thank you for that, Lance Archer. I always remember I had a conversation with Lance actually on Twitter, probably about a year or so ago, where he and Davey Boy Jr. were fighting in Japan. I can't remember who they were facing. And I referred to him as David Hart Smith. And Lance ripped into me because he said that David Hart Smith was his slave name. I thought it was fucking brilliant. Obviously staying in character like that on Twitter, not many wrestlers do that. Which is something that I'll always remember about Lance Archer. he basically ran down lists of the companies, you know, WWE, TNA, Ring of Honor, that are all afraid of Killer Elite Squad. And he says that he's about to say that they are the best team in the building. But as he's saying that, he turns around to face the entranceway, and out walking down the ramp are two very, very famous guys from all over the world, and nowhere more so than the ECW Arena. Bubba Ray and Devon, the Dudley Boys, and I swear to God, I have not marked out. Well, Matt Striker, he marked out for just about everybody in the building, everybody watching at home. He was like a 4-year-old going to see Santa Claus. He fucking was. I marked out. But nothing. Matt Striker, I think he actually shouted like "fuck yeah," and he was banging on the announce table. He was like a 4-year-old at fucking Christmas going to see Santa Claus. I tell you now, it was brilliant, and I love when commentators mark out for things like that. I don't know why, it's just something that I like to see. Basically, the crowd lost their shit, and you know who can blame them, because it's the fucking Dudley Boys. First time in the ECW Arena since, what, fucking 1999? Fucking brilliant. Bully took the mic. Bubba, Bully. I didn't know what to call him, so I sort of got a mixture of Bully and Bubba in here. He told KS that they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. The fans gave a "We Want Fire" chant, and Bubba told Lance exactly what the fans in Philadelphia meant. Philadelphia is what he called it. Bubba says that the fans don't want to see them wrestle tonight, they want to see them fight. And if they know the fans like they think they know the fans, they want to see the Dudleys put those motherfuckers through tables. And with that, the brawl fucking started off. It wasn't the longest of matches, but it certainly was entertaining. Bubba and Devon got all their spots, which is cool. But the one spot that they didn't get in was the 3D. You know, we had the Devon get the tables, we had everything, we had the WhatsApp, but we didn't get to see a 3D. But it was entertaining enough. The Dudleys picked up the win. It feels weird calling the Dudleys and not Team 3D. The Dudleys picked up the win with double powerbomb to Lance through the table. 1, 2, 3. Devon picked up the cover. And that was something I was like quite happy to see, actually, was Devon getting the cover and not Bubba. Because, obviously in their TNA careers, Bubba's sort of outshone Devon quite significantly. 2-time world champion in TNA. Whereas, I think the highest Devon got to was the TV title, 2-time TV champion. So, it was nice to see. Whether it was planned that way because Devon's not had as big a career as Bubba or Bully or whatever you want to call him, I don't know. But it was nice to see that Devon got the cover. I like Devon. I've always been a fan of Devon. I've always been a fan of Bubba as well. Apart from the Reverend Devon gimmick, that was shit, but that's Vince McMahon bullshit for you. We had a break. It's like 15-20 minutes where they showed an interview. Vic Travaglianti, commentator. If I pronounced that wrong, I do apologise. He sort of had a conversation with Stevie Richards while Matt Striker went off probably to change his underwear for the second half of the show after he just fucking exploded when the Dudleys came out. Vic was sort of chatting to Stevie Richards about all sorts of aspects of wrestling, what the future holds for him, DDP yoga and cats. Really good interview. I'm not going to go into it, but if you want to watch it, rfvideosnow.com, $14.99, or about £10 if you're British. After the break, the first match was one of 3 main events for the evening. It was a special challenge match, I think it was called. It was Austin Aries versus Drew Galloway. And in my opinion, in terms of pure wrestling, I'd say that this was the best match of the night. There were no weapons used at all. It was just brilliant wrestling. A very, very good 30-minute match. There were no sort of holy shit spots. There were no spots that are noteworthy of talking about. The match was just so solid. You didn't need these sort of people fucking setting people on fire, or somebody throwing somebody into the crowd or anything like that for this match. This was just a brilliant, pure wrestling match, I thought. Drew showed once again why he's one of, if not the hottest property on the indie circuit. And I've seen him maybe half a dozen times now since he was let go by the WWE. And all I keep thinking is, how the fuck can you let this guy go? This guy's just got so much talent, so much potential to be one of the best wrestlers in the world. Well, I would say he is one of the best wrestlers in the world, but to have the chance to shine on a stage like the WWE, and they just let him go. They put him in with 3MB. That was a crock of shit. And they let him go. They let the guy go, and I'll never understand it for the life of me. The guy is so talented, and they just threw him out. I don't get it. They always say the door is always open, so hopefully the door is open for Drew to one day go back. As I say, I'm a big fan of Drew. Massive fan of Drew, and if he never gets back to the WWE, kind of similar to John Morrison or Johnny Mundo, as he's being called in Lucha Underground. I always thought he'd end up back in the WWE. It doesn't look to be that way. I just hope that it isn't the same for Drew Galloway, because he is a hell of a wrestler. He's a hell of a talent. I built him up like that, and the surprise was that he lost. Aries picked up the win with the brainbuster. But yeah, Aries got into a bit of a verbal spat with a fan. Towards the end of the match, there was a "fuck TNA" chant, and this guy who was at ringside, he got in his face, and as soon as Aries stood up, he shut up. Aries walks 5 yards away, and this guy gives it the "fuck TNA, fuck TNA." So Aries, as he won the match, after he won the match, he's sort of walking around the ring, and this guy must have been giving him some verbal. Aries didn't like it, so he gave him some back, so he offered him for a fight backstage. I thought it was fucking brilliant. Unfortunately, the fight didn't happen, although I wish it had. Penultimate match of the evening, Tommy Dreamer. He's out for the final time with his wife Beulah. As I say, Beulah's calling it retirement. His opponent was due to be Ethan Carter III from TNA, but Ethan had to pull out due to an injury to an arm. I think it was like a torn bicep or tricep or something sep anyway. But his opponent was none other than the TNA World Heavyweight Champion Bobby Roode. How long he's going to be the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, I don't know, because the status of TNA is completely up in the air at the moment. But for now, Bobby Roode is the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Bobby comes into the ring. He talks about getting the call from Dixie to fill in for EC3. And as much as he'd like to have told Dixie to shove it up her ass, he had obligations to fulfill, blah, blah, blah. Talks about his respect for Tommy Dreamer, what he's done for wrestling fans, so on and so forth. And Roode then announced he doesn't care what TNA says, but he's going to put the TNA World Heavyweight Championship on the line. So we've got an impromptu title match on a show where, I don't think anybody expected Bobby Roode to be there in the first place. I was sort of speculating all day because I knew that EC3 was injured. I was sort of thinking maybe we'll get like an RVD, we would get Sabu, the Sandman. I was thinking an ECW original, but I think Bobby Roode was a very good choice for Tommy Dreamer, because Tommy can have good chemistry with a lot of people. Bobby Roode, he had good chemistry with it. The match told a good story, but business really picked up towards the end of the match. It was fucking brilliant. Dreamer hit a running drop kick to Roode, with the help of the chair, of course, placed in front of Bobby Roode's face. As he hit it, Velvet Sky came into the ring, and she wrenched Tommy's balls, basically. And Beulah obviously took exception to it. Maybe she wants more children, I don't know. And we had a cat fight. Roode eventually broke it up. He pulled Beulah off of Velvet by the hair. And Bobby basically got his balls wrenched as well by Beulah, which was quite funny because he's such a great seller, Bobby Roode, he really is. And it's the one thing that I'm sort of quite sad about, that I don't watch TNA anymore. I've always been a big Bobby Roode fan. Anytime I've seen him in the ring, I think he's a phenomenal wrestler. So it might be sort of worth maybe catching up with a few weeks of TNA just to see a bit of Bobby Roode in the ring. Anyway, Tommy retrieved a board covered in barbed wire from under the ring, and as he did, he got back into the ring. ECW original C.W. Anderson came in, and he leveled Tommy with a spine buster. And as soon as Anderson stood back up, he did his hand salute. I can't do it. With the C with one hand and the W with the other. We get the sound of a very famous Metallica song, and here comes the Sandman, and the crowd fucking lost their shit. It was brilliant, Not quite ECW One Night Stand 2005, but and if you got the DVD for that, don't watch the Sandman's entrance on that. Get onto YouTube or Dailymotion, somewhere where you'll find it with Enter Sandman, and it's fucking brilliant because the crowd was brilliant. So the Sandman came into the ring, cracked open a can of beer. He walloped C.W. Anderson in the ribs with his Singapore cane. As he went to do it again, he missed, and he got caught with a super kick. Sold it like shit, as he always does, but hey ho. So after Sandman's failed attempt to dispose of Anderson, we get AC/DC's Highway to Hell. And that can only mean little Spike Dudley, and Spike Dudley comes down to the ring, marching as he does. Brilliant. Spike hit the ring, and as he did, he landed the acid drop to to Anderson, but Roode had sort of propped himself up in the corner, and he used him as a ladder. It was really cool, I thought. Less than a minute later, the match was over. Amidst all the chaos, we still had a TNA World Championship match going on. Bobby Roode retained, as you'd expect, once you found out that it was a TNA World Championship match. And there was a series of reversals, guys, him and Tommy both trying to hit moves onto this board covered in barbed wire. But Roode hit the Roode bomb to retain the TNA World Championship. Really good show of respect after the match as well. He dropped the title to the ground, helped Tommy to his feet in the embrace, in the ring. And, he showed respect to Beulah as well, obviously being Beulah's last night, accompanying Tommy to the ring. Tommy took the mic, but for whatever reason it didn't seem to want to work. So referee ran to the back, brought out another one. And Tommy sort of jokingly said he spared no expense and he brought 2 mics. He put over TNA and thanked them for allowing their guys to be a part of House of Hardcore VII. He talks about his career, which he just celebrated his 25th birthday on October the 28th. And he talks about his family, and his and Beulah's twin daughters came out. Excuse me. Tommy gave Beulah the mic, and we got a pretty good thank you Beulah chant, because she did a lot for ECW back in the day, and she did say she wasn't expecting to talk, but she said she wasn't expecting, she didn't make any Hall of Fames, but she made it in ECW Arena, and that meant the world to her, basically. She was a woman of few words on the night, and her and Tommy just sort of rode off into the sunset. So it's a really nice sort of picture of the family. Tommy Dreamer, Beulah, and their children just walking off down the entrance ramp. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a really nice touch. Main event time. The old Hardy Boys versus the new Hardy Boys, the Young Bucks. and Matt and Jeff versus Matt and Jeff Hardy. Firstly, I marked out when the Young Bucks music started playing Mbop by Hanson. I'm a 90s kid, don't judge me. Really enjoyable main event, I thought. Super kicks were going on from early in the match. Matt Striker was updating us with how many we'd seen after each one, which was pretty cool. But what I liked was the longer the match went on, the more the Hardys sort of portrayed heels. More so Matt, especially, say what you will about Matt Hardy, he's a dick. He's just an idiot, basically. But he's a very, very good heel. And you just look at the stuff that he did in early 2009, Jordan's feud with Jeff. And then you look at the stuff that he did in Ring of Honor, the Kingdom, Adam Cole, so on and so forth, Mike Bennett. And that's just enough evidence to prove that Matt Hardy is a fantastic heel worker. My favourite part of this match was when Nick hit a springboard facebuster to Matt, and then he literally jumped out of the ring, and Jeff made it up to his feet, but not for long because Nick hit Jeff with a tornado DDT to the floor. No padding either, and it looked like his head may well have hit the fucking floor. And who says wrestling's fake? And then shortly after, we had another really cool spot. Jeff got whipped into one of the corners, like on the entrance ramp side of the ring. But he managed to lift himself up, when they sort of do a handstand on the top rope and wait for the other guy to come through to hit the turnbuckle so they can go down to get the advantage. Basically, Jeff sort of did a handstand on the top rope. Say a handstand, you'll know what I mean. Just basically, obviously looking to drop behind Nick. But instead, Nick didn't fall for it and he caught him flush with, I believe it was super kick number 5. And Jeff, went down with a sack of shit. Matt Jackson got it back into the ring. He hit Jeffrey with a twist of fate, and then Nick connected with a swanton bomb, but Jeff managed to kick out of the pin too. But a few minutes later, the Bucks did pick up the win. They pinned Matt Hardy after about half a dozen super kicks, two of which were to Jeff, in all fairness, like a double super kick, and more bang for your buck. Landed to Matt Hardy. 1, 2, 3. The Young Bucks pick up the win. Right decision, I think, as well. Everybody can say what they want about the Hardy Boys. Brilliant tag team, and they have been for the last 20 years. But the Young Bucks deserved the win on the night, I thought. Matt Hardy took the microphone after the match, admitted he's sometimes a dick, as I just said. But the Bucks are in the Hardy Boys' respect. Matt offered to shake the hand of both the Jacksons. Jeff, he didn't say anything, but he sort of nodded in agreement. But Matt told him to back up so that the Hardy Boys could walk up to them to shake hands, losers to winners as it should be. But told him don't double cross him. So the Hardys shook the hands of Matt and Nick, and after Matt Hardy warned the Young Bucks not to double cross them, the Hardy Boys tried to double cross the Young Bucks. It kind of failed, and they both got super kicked. Numbers 12 and 13, I believe. Young Bucks did their signature poses, but as they were sort of posing, they got ambushed by the Dudley Boys. And this is where we got a couple of 3Ds. The Dudley Death Drop. Bubba he got on the mic. He put over the Young Bucks, with their ability and their popularity. But he said that him and Devon don't appreciate any disrespect, and I'm guessing he meant towards the Hardy Boys. I don't know. I don't know what the tension is between the Dudleys and the Young Bucks. I know, like Bubba said something at Bound for Glory. What he said, I don't know. I haven't watched it, but whatever. So the Young Bucks made their way to the back. Bubba cut a promo over, like he was putting over House of Hardcore and Tommy Dreamer and the fans. He put over the fans as well. Dreamer came out. He basically said next year he's looking to do 8 shows and perhaps get on TV as well, which we'll see. I don't really have an opinion on it, but we'll see. The show closed out. You know, you had a few boys from the locker room come down, and they were all drinking beer with Enter Sandman playing. Overall rating of the show, I thought it was brilliant. I give it an 8.5. Just so many entertaining matches throughout. You know, some really, really big surprises as well. You know, Alberto Del Rio, Ricardo Rodriguez, the Dudley Boys. You know, it's things like this that make being a wrestling fan special, because you don't get that kind of you don't get those kinds of surprises in any other sports. You know, if you're watching a football match, it's just a football match. You know, somebody might score a goal, doesn't often score a goal. You get over that. But I think as wrestling fans, we appreciate things more, because surprises are generally pretty fucking big. And you know, it's just something that's very special to me, pro wrestling. And I think I speak for a lot of people as well when I say this, that you can't sort of replicate these special moments in any other sport. As I say, you know, in football somebody might score a goal, somebody doesn't score very often, something, you know, but you can't take away what happens in wrestling, because there's just so many special moments. But yeah, a brilliant wrestling show I thought throughout, and you know, as I said, anybody who's not seen it, I do highly recommend it. rfvideonow.com, $14.99. It works out to be about a tenner if you're English, British. Brilliant, just absolutely fucking brilliant wrestling show. But yeah, I'm looking forward to more House of Hardcore next year. It's the first show that I've watched live. It was their first live pay-per-view. Definitely be watching more. I'm just looking forward to the indies for next year. I don't think there's much left this year, but I'm really looking forward to next year. You know, Family Wrestling Entertainment, ICW, House of Hardcore, you know, these kinds of shows, more PWG as well. You know, indie wrestling's where it's at, as my good friend Tony Walker says quite regularly. It's a nice break from the norm of the WWE. If you only watch WWE, I highly recommend that you try and get into other things as well. You know, Ring of Honor. I'm a massive Ring of Honor fan. Independent wrestling. Watch as much independent wrestling as you can, however you can. Just there's a wider range of talent, and probably guys who are a lot more talented than 90% of the WWE roster out on the indie circuit. In Ring of Honor, in PWG, New Japan. You know, you just got to get out there and you got to find it. And I try to put it over for you guys so you can sort of discover this brilliant wrestling that generally goes unwatched. But yeah, this is me trying to put it over and basically fucking it up. So, watch indie wrestling. Grappling greats this week. As I said, I don't normally do it for the indie shows, but I'm doing it this week. As last Thursday was the death anniversary, the 9th death anniversary of Eddie Guerrero. One of my all-time favourite wrestlers, as I said at the top of the show, one of my top 5 wrestlers of all time. Always been a big fan, no matter whether he's heel or face. I've always found, or I always used to find with Eddie, him and Chris Jericho are like a dying breed, or the last of the dying breed, where they can make you love them one minute and fucking hate their guts the next. And there's an argument for CM Punk in that category as well, I suppose, but it's a special talent to have, where, as I say, you can get the fans to love you 1 minute and hate you the next. Some people, the fans just won't care. But Eddie and Chris Jericho and CM Punk as well, I suppose, they had the crowd in the palm of their hands every night, and they had them eating whatever they were saying, and it always worked. Always worked. So yeah, grappling greats, Eddie Guerrero. He was born October the 9th, 1967, Eduardo Gori Guerrero Yanez. That's my awful Mexican or Spanish accent. Obviously born into the legendary Guerrero family, where his brothers Chavo Sr., Hector, and Mando all wrestled, as did his father Gory. He was obviously a very successful promoter as well, for those who know. He mainly wrestled when he wrestled in Mexico, he mainly wrestled for AAA, where he met his good friend and tag team partner Art Barr, but Barr sadly passed away at the age of 28, and Eddie adopted Art Barr's finisher, the Frog Splash, as a tribute to his fallen friend, up until the day that Eddie died. He also wrestled in Japan and was the man behind the mask of the second incarnation of Black Tiger. Guerrero went on to win the 1996 Best of the Super Juniors tournament, and he had a shot at the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. I can't remember who he faced, but he lost. I think that was as a result of winning the tournament. He joined ECW in 1995, and he won the World Television title in his first match with the company against Too Cold Scorpio. He had a great series of matches with Dean Malenko. If you've not watched any of those matches, I really suggest that you get onto them. My personal favourite was the last one that they had. It was a 2 out of 3 falls match, which ended as a draw. Usually, ECW fans would have basically shouted a load of abuse at the wrestlers, showing their anger and their displeasure for them leaving the company. This was Eddie and Dean's last match in the company. But what they got was a chance of Please Don't Go. Brilliant show of respect. He went to the WCW in 1995 with Malenko and Chris Benoit, and in 1996 he won the United States title for the first time, defeating Diamond Dallas Page in it was like a tournament final for the vacated title. He had successful defences of the title against Six, X-Pac, Scott Norton and Chris Jericho before losing the title to his old foe Dean Malenko. He soon after focused on the Cruiserweight title, defeated Chris Jericho for the belt at Full Brawl in 1997, and soon after he lost it to Rey Mysterio Jr. at Halloween Havoc, another brilliant Eddie Guerrero match as well. That was a title versus mask match, but he won the title back on the November 10th episode of Nitro. After years of unhappiness in WCW, Eddie, along with Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn, were granted their releases from the WCW, and they signed for the WWE and formed a stable known as the Radicals. And it was weird at the time because, as much as it was just before I got into being a wrestling fan, I've read a lot about it, I've seen a lot about it. Chris Benoit, previous night, I believe it was, won the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And the rest is history, as they say, with Chris Benoit. He won his first title in the WWE the night after WrestleMania 2000, when he defeated Chris Jericho for the European title, which he lost to Perry Saturn a couple of months later at Fully Loaded 2000. And he also won the Intercontinental Championship the same year from his Mamacita, China. Just over a year later, everybody knows the story of Eddie Guerrero with his, his drug issues. He was hooked on painkillers. He was involved in a near fatal car accident during his WCW days. Basically came back too soon. He was still in a lot of pain and he became addicted to painkillers. So he checked himself into rehab, and while he was in rehab, Sorry, I think it must have been just after he came out of rehab. He was arrested for drink driving in November 2001. Unfortunately, Jim Ross had to let him go. He returned to WWE in early 2002. He had a brief run in Ring of Honor and a couple of other little companies. There was a really good match, actually, a triple threat match between him, Rey Mysterio, and CM Punk. It is available on YouTube, so make sure you watch that. Brilliant match. He returned to WWE in early 2002, defeated RVD for the Intercontinental Championship at Backlash. He held the title for a few months before losing it back to Rob. Soon after that, he joined the SmackDown brand. It was during just after the invasion. So they had Raw was its own brand and SmackDown was its own brand. For those who don't know, and in my opinion, the way it still should be. Became tag team champion with his nephew Chavo. They were the third ever WWE tag team champions. They defeated. It was a triple threat match against the team of Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit and Edge and Rey Mysterio. That was at Survivor Series 2002 in Madison Square Garden. It was a lifelong dream for Chavo and Eddie Los Guerreros. It was a lifelong dream that they had. But more success came in 2003. He won the titles. He won the tournament final for the US Championship. Defeated Chris Benoit in the final, courtesy of Rhino's help. That was for. They were reintroducing the United States Championship. His biggest success, though, came in 2004 when he defeated Brock Lesnar to become the WWE Champion at No Way Out. He had a really good, successful title defense against Kurt Angle at WrestleMania 20. That was one of the matches of the year, I thought, in 2004. His next title defense on pay-per-view was against JBL. Ended in a disqualification loss. But that'll always be remembered for the sheer fucking bloodbath that match was. It was brutal, but brilliant at the same time. But he lost the title shortly after that in a Texas Bull Rope match at the Great American Bash to JBL. Controversial finish, and then he also lost another rematch on SmackDown. I think it was about 2 weeks after. It was a steel cage match where Kurt Angle basically screwed him. They feuded throughout the rest of the year. But in 2005, Eddie won his final tag team championship, his fourth and final. He won two with Chavo, one with Tajiri, and one with Rey Mysterio. The one he won with Ray was at No Way Out 2005. They became the first ever tag team champions to face one another at WrestleMania. That was at WrestleMania 21, and it's only ever been done once since. That was Shawn Michaels and John Cena. And that was the following year, or maybe 2 years after. Eddie and Ray eventually lost the titles to Eminem, and they had one of the best feuds of the modern era, in my opinion. They had some great matches, I thought. I think they had one at the Great American Bash, which was just a bog standard one-on-one match. Then they had one at SummerSlam, where the feud was built around Ray's son Dominic. And basically, I remember Eddie coming out on SmackDown and he said to Dominic, "I'm your pappy." Basically said that Ray was firing blanks, so needed Eddie's help to, have a child. They had a ladder match for custody of Dominic at SummerSlam, and I thought it would have been better if Eddie would have won the match. I've always thought that, but they just, for whatever reason, didn't go down that route. Nonetheless, it was a brilliant match. His last pay-per-view was No Mercy 2005, which he main evented and lost to the World Heavyweight Champion Dave Bautista. A couple of weeks later, though, he won his final match on SmackDown versus Mr. Kennedy, but he sadly died less than a week later from acute heart failure at age 38. The Raw and SmackDown shows the following week were held in Eddie's honour, and he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2006. So there you go, bit of a background on the career of Eddie Guerrero. A lot more information than what I normally put out in these sections, but as I say, Eddie was one of my favourites. It was easier for me to talk about that than say a guy like Buddy Rogers, because I watched a lot of Eddie Guerrero's career. And as I say, for me, he was one of my top 5 wrestlers. Well, still is. Every year on his death anniversary, I'll always watch the Cheating Death Stealing Life DVD. It's like a 45-minute documentary, and I love watching the Viva La Raza segments that he did with Chavo. You know, lying, cheating, and stealing. Brilliant. Anyway, that's the end of the show. Thank you everybody for listening and putting up with my monotonal Bristolian voice for just over an hour now. Assuming you're still listening, that is. Yeah, I've not got my list of shout-outs, so I will put them in the notes below. But thanks for everybody for listening. As I said, if you've not watched House of Hardcore VII and you want to watch it, and you know, I know Christmas is coming up, money's a bit tight for some people, but if you do have the money available, rfvideonow.com, $14.99, which works out in British money to about a tenner. So, as I say, if you've not watched it, you'd like to watch it, that's where you need to go. Thank you everybody for listening, and I'll be back again. I will be covering NXT next week.